I lost my dad at 32, and then he had a brother. He had terminal cancer. I had a 102-year-old nan who passed away in the January, and my uncle, he passed away 2 weeks after her, the day before her funeral. So in the space of 2 years, I've lost 3 family members. Like, all my dad's side now is gone. It's a death sentence.
Welcome to It's a Death Sentence, and today we have the lovely Jenna Smalley with us.
Hello.
I'm so sorry we've had such a trauma to get you on the show. You wouldn't believe the technical hitch we've just had trying to get her on. And also, I just need to make a little apology because obviously my co-host Emma, she's had an emergency, so she's not here today, so it's just me and you.
Yeah.
Chatting, putting the world to rights and chatting about death, which is, so positive. So for our listeners, Jenna, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am 34. I've got 2 children and I'm married. I lost my dad at 32, basically had no warning, was with him all day, and he died of aorta, ruptured. He lived with my mum, perfectly happy, no health issues for a really long time. And then he had a brother who was older, and he had terminal cancer. So once my dad passed away, I had to then care for him. I became carer. I basically took the role of my dad with him, and he was terminal for a year. I had a 102-year-old nan who passed away in the January, and my uncle, he passed away 2 weeks after her, the day before her funeral. So I had to go to her funeral, knowing obviously that my uncle wasn't here anymore. My dad had gone and she'd gone, and then I had to plan a funeral also for my uncle as well. So in the space of 2 years, I've lost 3 family members. Like, all my dad's side now is gone in the 2 years.
That is unbelievable, isn't it? When you put it like that, I mean, grief anyway feels like such a short space of time, and then before you know it, 2 years have gone and you're like, oh my God, where did that go? But to have like multiple deaths in that time, that must have been absolutely out of this world. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was hard because obviously when my dad passed away, I didn't have really a lot of chance to grieve for him. I was also like helping my mum get through it because there was quite a bit of a age gap between them. So my mum was 59 when she lost my dad, and my dad was in his 70s. So there was a massive age gap, but she obviously wanted to live her life as normal as possible. And then obviously we had my uncle that we were taking to hospital visits. We were doing all of that. Plus we had my nan who, she was 100 at the time. My dad put her in a care home. So my uncle wanted to go visit her. So there was like a lot of things. And at that time, we didn't really get to grieve for my dad. And then obviously having then 2 other people pass away in those 2 years, it's like my life has kind of stopped now, and I have to try and work and navigate. How do I do it without them? How do I, I'm still so young, trying to work out and also trying to support my 13-year-old and trying to support my 5-year-old to realise that they're no longer here anymore.
Yeah, because you're not just dealing with your own grief, you're trying to be a mum as well, and also be a daughter and be a partner and live as a human being who's dealing with their own grief and stress. It sounds like almost impossible, but I know as women and as humans, we just cope, don't we? We just, for some way, we find a way. We have to. There's nothing else we can do.
Yeah, I mean, I have had people turn around and be like, you've done really, really well, and you've carried on, but I've had no choice to. if I don't get up, if I don't take them on the school run, if I don't take them to their sports after school, then who is? Like, they're going to suffer then. So it is that aspect as well.
I think people sort of assume that it's, oh, you've done really well done, like it's a choice.
Yeah.
There is no choice.
No.
This is life and this is what you've been dealt. And it's sort of like, well, if I had the choice, I'd probably stay under the duvet and not do anything, because right now that's what I feel like I want to do. But unfortunately, like you said, you can't. You're a mum, you've got things you need to do. And I think as women and as mums, we do put our own grief on the back burner when we've got other things and other people to sort of navigate. Do the kids understand?
My eldest does, I think. I mean, he's pushed his boundaries quite a bit with me. Whether that is, I don't think that is because of the situation, but I think he knows that there's no leeway with me at the minute. I need you to get on with it. I need you to just help me. Like, you can see what I've been through for the last 2 years, but I've also understand what you're going through, and I understand my 5-year-old. I think she gets it in some kind of way. I don't think she understands it fully, but I think she understands that they're not here anymore. We're not going to be going to their house anymore. They're not going to be picking up the phone, which I think has been quite hard for her in that aspect. She was close to them all. She got really close to my uncle in the last year. So that was quite difficult, having to tell her that he's no longer here anymore, but she knew how poorly he was. Like, I did kind of keep her up to date that he's not doing so well today. Like, we're back at the hospital again. And my dad, she was 3, and she didn't get that. But she talks about him a lot. Like, she can still remember him, and I show her pictures of him and stuff like that. But I don't think she fully understood my dad, because she was with him all day that day. So I think that's a difficult one.
Going back to your dad, when he died, can you remember when you heard the news and how you felt in that immediate sort of time after losing him?
Yeah, so when he, because the ambulance took 2 hours to get to him, and I arrived at my mum's house, and basically they were like, Jackie, please go with Jenna in the car. Like, they didn't tell us. They knew that this was happening. They didn't tell us that this was happening. So my mum never got to say goodbye to him because she came into my car. But when we got to the hospital, we got put into a side room, and a doctor and a nurse came in, and basically I said to the nurse, is he okay? Is he all right? Because at first we thought it could just be, something with his stomach, or, just, we never thought that was going to be the case. And they came in and just basically was like, yeah, Ian's passed away. And in my initial thought was, no, this can't be happening. And I'll never forget, my mum screamed, and it was a bit like, and I say it to her a little bit, that it was a bit like EastEnders, when you get that dramatic sound from
that guttural feeling. Yeah.
And I just stayed quiet. I didn't speak. I didn't cry at the time. I didn't speak. I just kind of looked at her, and all of her emotions came out. It was all, that was her soulmate. That was who she'd been with for over 30 years. Like, that was her life. And I just thought, what am I going to do? And the first person that I thought of was my uncle, because my dad had looked after him, and I just said, what am I going to do about Terry? And I didn't really think about me at that time. But afterwards, it was hard. It was really, the emotions came out. But then we had to plan the funeral. So I helped my mum plan the funeral. So it was kind of like I kept busy, and like I was with my uncle a lot. So I was keeping busy. I was making sure that he was okay. So I didn't really show much emotion at that time.
I think we go into survival mode, don't we? At that point, we can just be getting through from moment to moment. It doesn't feel real. It feels like it's a movie or something's happening, but you're not quite sure if it's real or not. Like even years later, it can not feel real. Those sorts of moments.
I mean, it was really hard, and I don't want to say bad on the NHS, but when the day after my dad had passed away, I was at my mum's house, and she got a phone call, and she started crying down the phone. I was like, "Who is that on the phone?" And she was like, "Oh, the infirmary are ringing." She ended up putting the phone down. The infirmary are ringing to do a survey on how they dealt with your dad's death.
I mean, fucking read the room.
I know.
Like, Jesus
and it was literally
Christ.
the morning after my dad had passed away. And she
That's
was like,
disgusting.
I'm not answering these questions right now. I'm not doing that. And one, he didn't die in your hospital. He died in the ambulance. So you didn't do any care for him at that point because he'd already gone. When he arrived at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, he had already gone. So it was like they didn't do anything. There was no really any answers to anything. They just kind of came in, told us that they knew it was his aorta because they scanned him. But that was it. That was...
Did you know that he had a problem with his aorta before?
No.
No,
he hadn't had any... Because when you get to a certain age... you get sent a letter through to get your aorta scanned. My dad never had that. So we never knew anything. Looking back, he was a little bit, he was fit as a fiddle, but he started to get a little bit out of breath when he went for a long walk with my mum. But there was nothing that he never complained about anything in the day, of that day. Nothing.
I just think, the NHS are fantastic at, when they need to be, and sometimes they are wonderful, but I think maybe it's a human failing that if that was me and that was my job to phone up about, surveys, I would be thinking, hold on a minute, let me just read the information. Oh, this person died yesterday. Do I think in my mind that is appropriate? No, I don't. So I won't ring them. You know what I mean? I just think there's no room for logic anymore, or just on a very basic human level, just there's no care, is there, sometimes in the NHS, which is shocking.
No, and it's more how I saw it. It was more about numbers, and it was more about their situation and their, like, how did they do it? What, because you think somebody could sue you? I get that, but also read the room, also understand that especially my mum wouldn't have wanted to go over that night when it was only the night before. We'd literally got up, walked the dog, trying to navigate her life, really.
Like, what do we do now? It's that big question, isn't it? Like, what the hell do we do now?
Yeah, and they've got to understand that people don't want to be doing these surveys. It's not like buying a new iPad and, oh, how is your new iPad, or how is, your new toy for your child, or anything like that, or buying a new car. This is about somebody's life, and this is, my mum now has to navigate of living her life without my dad.
Yeah, it's shocking. And for you as well, sort of the immediacy of death of anybody, you've got the funeral to plan, there's always loads of things to keep you busy, and then there's all the paperwork you've got to deal with. But also then, you're thrust into a position where you're not just caring for your kids, but you're caring for your nan and your uncle. So how did you navigate that?
Hard. It was like my dad was doing like 2 days a week, taking him to the care home to see my nan. So I took on that. Plus then I was, because he lived with my nan his whole life. He was actually diagnosed being schizophrenic as well. He was on medication for that. So he couldn't really do a lot. He was a bit lazy in some ways, where, like, if you can do it, that's the best way. And that's how he navigated things. But I just did it because I knew that if I didn't do it, nobody else would do it. my mum went to see him. I've got two half brothers that did their little bit, but he relied on me. I think he saw me because of my dad, and like I was very close to him and stuff, that I knew best, if that makes sense. So the decision making of him, and he ended up going in the care home a year ago, had issues with that. So it was just constantly, the phone was ringing all the time, telling my kids, oh no, we can't do this today because we've got to deal with this. And so they got stopped on doing a lot of things outside of school. And I also had Bo that's only just started reception in September. So she was coming to the care home with me all the time, or she was going to my uncle's house all the time and having to bring her along in the ride. So she kind of went through it with me, really.
And I suppose it sort of is a little bit of a distraction when you've got somebody little with you, because you can, it sort of makes it a little bit easier to deal with those things, because you look at them and you think, wow, you know, you're my real purpose, that I'm, you know, I need to hold it together for you. And as much as it's hard work when you've got them and, you know, you're trying to navigate a million and one things, they do sort of pull you through, don't they, really, kids, you know, they're...
I said to my husband, if I didn't have them, I think I would have been in bed. I think I would have stayed in all the time. I don't think I would have had the motivation. And I don't think if Terry wasn't here, my uncle, with my dad's death, I don't think I would have done half the stuff that I was doing, because he got me through it. He did get me through it in a way of health wise and stuff like that. We didn't really discuss much. We would do a little bit. He'd tell me he missed him and that my dad was his rock, but we didn't really discuss our feelings. Like, our family aren't really like that. Where I could talk about it all day long, whereas my mum, she doesn't really like talking about it, really. My uncle was the same, didn't really like talking about it.
How are they doing now? Do they talk about it anymore now that some time's passed, or is it still, I mean, like your mum, obviously, 'cause she's still with her.
My mum will talk about it a little bit, but then she'll change the subject, which I get. My mum still doesn't want to really divulge into what happened that night. She gets very upset. There is some things that I'm like, I would like to know, like, but look, it is what it is. You know, he's not here anymore, and
It's not going to bring him back, is it? You know?
No. So it's kind of like brush it off. Whereas with like my uncle, it was me dealing with everything. So I was like my mum in that aspect. And then when we got the call to say he's on end of life now, I obviously sat with him and played his music and spoke to him. And then within, like, I think it was the Sunday, by the Monday at like 3:00, he'd passed away. So it wasn't like really, really.
And were you with him? Were you with him when he died?
Right. So when I got the phone call in the middle of the night on the Saturday/Sunday, I stayed with him all day, through the night and in the day. And then on the Monday, I had a hair appointment, and I kept saying to everybody, I was like, do I go? Do I not go? Do I cancel it? And I was like, and ahhing. And a few people said, look, we'll take you off. We'll sit with him and we'll update you. So I did go get my hair done. When I'd left and I got back to the care home, I was literally walking through the door and I got a phone call to say he'd passed away. So I'd missed it by about 5 minutes.
Do you know, sometimes they do say that they think they wait until you're not there.
Yeah, because he had a cook that used to come and cook him dinners when he lived at home. She came and she hadn't been for a while to say basically goodbye to him. So I think he'd like seen everybody, and I think it got to that point where so he just obviously decided to go, and then obviously getting that phone call, and then the next day I had to go back to that care home because my nan's funeral was leaving from there. So I had to go back there. And then because the care home basically said every day that you leave his stuff there is every day you're paying for it. So the next day I had to clean his room out and get everything out.
Real compassion there again from our caring professions.
Yeah. And also another thing was when he went on to end of life. So we had terminal cancer for this whole year, that he's only got a year to live. He lasted over a year. When he got the injection, I said, now he's on end of life, should he be getting any free care? And they were like, oh yes, but doesn't mean that he'll get it, because it depends.
On what?
I said, that's what I said. I said, depends on what? I said, he can't speak. He's not there anymore. We're just waiting for everything to obviously happen. And they were like, right, so what you have to do is we've got to fill in a form. The district nurse has got to come out to assess him, and then they'll decide whether he'll get the free care. Well, I didn't even get to sign the forms because he'd already passed.
How long does that take? If you know somebody was dying, why is that not in place?
Yeah, they were going to come 3-4 days after he'd been injected with end-of-life medication. So we got nothing. And also, we didn't get any help with anything. Because when he got told that he was terminal, we didn't get any help from the hospital. We didn't get any help from Macmillan. We got no help. Nobody could advise us. Obviously, none of us have been through this, and obviously I'd never been through it, and I was his next to kin. I had no help. I had no help from anybody in the health service. Like, nobody would, and they would be like, he's just so poorly. Like, well, I know he's poorly. I understand. And even like afterwards, the doctor was very good who came out when he'd passed away. He was quite nice, but even then there was no advice or no like, oh, if you need our help with this, if you need our help that.
Signposting, like, these are the services, or can I help you with anything? Like, for us, doing the podcast, I mean, we're both obviously gone through grief ourselves, and we sort of, again, we felt perhaps there wasn't the support. But then we hear fantastic stories about when there has been the support and it has worked. There's a lot more stories of when it fucking hasn't, and when people have been let down by the services that are available or don't know what is out there for them. Had you been given more options and more information, it would have made everything a lot smoother for you. And also then sort of dealing with like the aftermath of somebody dying, especially if you're next to kin. There's so much to do. And when you're a woman and you've got a family, like I said, you sort of are not taking care of your own grief. It becomes something that bubbles in the background, and at some point that will come out. But there should be more done to recognise it,
Yeah. I mean, I just kept getting, well, yeah, it's like from the funeral directors. You're just getting a bill here. You're getting, oh, we've overpaid you on this. We've overpaid you on this. Can you pay this back? Can you do this? Can you do this? And it's like, if I wasn't the person that I was, where I could navigate and do it, I feel sorry for the people that they are grieving that badly or can't get up in the mornings, don't have the motivation or the people around them. They're the people that I worry about. They're the people that I think, well, where's their help? Where's their help on dealing with things? The banks, and the banks just want, oh, we're going to freeze the accounts now. They're, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I just think there's no, in my personal opinion, there could be a lot more help. There could be a lot more, things out there to do. I know there's near me, there's like a meeting in a pub that if somebody has passed away and they talk about death.
Like a death cafe, is it?
Yeah, that's it. So I know there's things like that, and there are groups out there. There's probably Facebook groups and all sorts out there.
Sometimes it's about living life after loss, not just about the initial sadness and the grief. It's about navigating all the difficult things that you have to do. You know, navigating what happens if your loved one dies, what happens if they go to the coroner, what happens if you've got to produce paperwork and give it to, 10 types of people. All those things, they're sort of practical advice whilst you're trying to grieve. So it's sort of, we almost need somebody to acknowledge how shit it is and be like, mate, I know what you're going through. It is crap, but this is what I'm here to do. And I can help you through that. I can show you what you've got to do. And also have a cup of tea and a cry if you need to.
Yeah. But I also think as well, like, I'm not saying like my youngest being spoken to about it, but also like maybe high school to explain to them, like, this is what grief is. This is, people aren't here forever. And this is how, having somebody to speak out about this kind of thing. Because I think like people just think at like 13 years old, my eldest, like he'll probably think, oh, everybody lives forever. Like my 5, everybody lives forever. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. Yeah. And I think like, I'm not saying divulge in it. I'm not, some people might disagree in my opinion, but I don't think things are spoken about enough.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that. We've done a couple of kids mini pods in schools, and we've actually got one at a high school in a few weeks, and we're making a mini series in 2 weeks' time with them, getting them to do the episodes. And it's for the school so that the school can, because death education is becoming part of the curriculum in September 2026, so the end of this year. It, like you, I totally agree that, sort of equipping them at that age will ensure that they are better equipped for when they're adults. So they may not lose somebody when they're young, but actually their friends might. And one child in every 29 kids or whatever it is, probably more than that now, loses a parent or a sibling. It's knowing how to talk to people and how to support them best. And we feel quite strongly about that as the podcast. And that's part of our mission, is to get into some schools and actually deliver that training. So we actually have got our first senior school pilot next 2 weeks' time. So we're looking forward to that. But, it's refreshing to hear somebody else say, this is what we're missing. This is a vital thing that's missing.
This is life, isn't it? This is life. And they have to, they might not fully understand it. They might not get it, but at least they can say, I was spoken about it. It's been because there's some parents that don't want to speak about it. They don't think it's right. Or we don't discuss anything like that. And I just think, in my opinion, I think it should be spoken about, because their little minds will be playing. My mind goes, 100 miles an hour, let alone theirs. I'm thinking, I don't really get why they're not here anymore. I don't understand why, we can't go around the house anymore. Why are they not ringing you anymore, mummy? And, things like that. And I think that has to be spoken about. The emotions, people say, oh, the English, they don't like speaking about things, and they don't, they just go brush it off. I'm not that kind of person. I'd rather sit down and say, well, how are you feeling today? Like, what, not always do I get asked. Like, not always. Like, I think, like, when I've lost family members, people have been there for about a week and then they just go. Yeah. And I get they get on with their lives, which is absolutely fine. I understand that. But now I've been through it, would I do that? No.
And I think, things like vital services out there, like online support, and like we have some connections with like the New Normal and places like that. They've got like online support for ongoing grief, because there is no timeline, is there? So yes, your friends might stop asking after a few weeks because they've forgotten, but you haven't forgotten, because it's fundamentally changed everything about you. So, and I think we do move on, don't we? We sort of move on from people we think, well, they're not for me anymore. Especially after situations like yourself, you've gone through something so traumatic, life-changing for you, and sometimes people just can't grasp that that changes you, and naturally we sort of move away from them.
I think I've changed quite a lot. I was quite hot-headed before. I was quite like, "Oh, I don't care about this. I don't care about that." Whereas now, I kind of just think I'm more calm. I'm more like, there's more going on than who's getting the new handbag. Who's like, no, no, I don't care where you're going on holiday. I'm not bothered about anything like that. I'm not, or who you're arguing with now. I just like want to get on with my life. My life has been stopped for 2 years. I've not thought about myself at all. And now it's my turn. And that sounds a little bit selfish, but I kind of think it's my turn now to live my life. I've had years of missing out on stuff, and my children have missed out on things. My husband has missed out on things because I'm like, no, you can't do this because I might get a phone call, or I might be doing this, or no, I've got to plan his funeral now. And
We should be thinking like, let's embrace what time we've got and, enjoy our families and our children, and try and enjoy what experiences we can, because life tomorrow's not promised, is it? So
no, think people can be gone. You think, oh, they're all really healthy. No, they're fine. Then you see that they've gone, and there's no warning. But then I also think as well, what is best? Is the warning best of knowing that they're going to go? Because I've now had two. I've had it both ways. And I think, would I want to know? I don't think I would have wanted to know my dad.
you think it would have been too hard?
I think so. And I think that he wouldn't have wanted that either. My dad was a bit of a hypochondriac when it came to things. So for him, it was like he would have gone into absolute meltdown. And me and my mum do speak about that. He went the best way. He didn't. He did say to my mum that he knew he was dying, but I don't think he really understood it. Whereas like my uncle, he obviously knew that he was going, but he just kept saying, I'll prove them wrong. I will live longer than the year. And he did live longer than the year. So he did prove them wrong. But it must have been scary. But he never spoke about it. He never spoke and said, I'm scared. He just said, I will live a little bit longer.
My brother obviously died of cancer, and he knew that for a long time that he was dying, and he was terrified, and it would torture us to watch him sort of in that pain, in that agony. In some ways, it would have been less cruel for it to be a fast ending, for everybody involved, for my mum, for me, for his wife, everyone who watched him go through that. So it's hard to tell, isn't it?
It's hard. It is hard. It is hard, especially watching them and knowing that they're deteriorating, knowing that it could be any day now. And it was like, we didn't get any warning that they were going to do end of life medication on my uncle. I got there and they said, yeah, we've injected him with end of life medication. And I said, I'm his power of attorney of his health. I'm his next of kin. And you haven't bothered to even ring me to tell me that that was the case.
And was it like a painkiller that they gave him? Like a sedative, like painkiller?
Yeah. But I still do think he was talking that day. He was perfectly okay. Even the day before, he was like eating loads, like absolutely fine. And I do think like they might, the end of life medication made him just not there, just absolutely not there. And he knew I was there. He would open his eyes when I spoke to him, and when I played his music, he would like open his eyes and then close them again. But would it have, I don't know. You look back on things and you think, if I hadn't done this, if I was there that day, would they have done it? Because I wasn't very happy. To be honest, I wasn't very happy with the end of life because he was in no pain. He was fine. He was just there and he was talking, he was eating, he was communicating. As the injection had obviously been done, I'd arrived like half an hour afterwards. And he was like, Jenna, I'm really worried about you, and, you know, don't cry over this. But I don't think they said they spoke to him, but I don't, because of his mental issues, I don't think he quite understood what they were doing.
Yeah. And also at that point, you know, if he was sort of near death anyway, you know, you can be really confused, can't you, and not really understand fully what's being said to you.
No, and I said, is he going to be staying at the care home? Is he going to go to Loros? Is he... Oh, no, he'll just stay here. And I said, well, his wishes were to see if he could get into Loros, but they never put that through. So his wishes, so he just stayed at the care home. So it is... That's also what people have also got to think about, is like the wishes of that person, what their wishes are, and not always are you going to be able to do that. And also that is a big thing of when they do pass away, you go in your head and go, I didn't do that, I didn't do this, they wanted me to do this, they wanted me to do that. And like, he wanted fish and chips from the chip shop, we never got a chance to do it. And it was like,
it's like an element of guilt, isn't it? You know, like you feel guilty that you didn't quite sort of get to give them everything they wanted.
No. And I still think about that. His funeral was, never did it to my dad's because I didn't know I could do it. But I mirrored his funeral basically. So I've got it on my phone. And I think it might have been a really bad thing of me doing that, because I replay it and I replay it and I replay it. And my mum's like, Jenny, you need to stop doing that. But it's like, have I done his funeral exactly how he asked me to? Because obviously we planned it. He sat there and said what songs he wanted. And
how beautiful is that, though, to get that opportunity to talk about what he wanted and to plan the funeral? You know, that in itself is a bit of a gift, isn't it? Because at least you sort of know that, you know, it was right.
But then I forget anything that he'd said that he wanted, or, you know, did I put the songs in the right order that he wanted? Whereas like with my dad, there was only one song that he said. He never got to plan it. He never got to speak to my mum really of what he wanted. So my mum had to kind of just of how he was. And you look back and she might think, did I do it how he would have wanted?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. That was always said in the funeral. Like it said at my uncle's funeral, you know, he planned this. This is what he wanted. And a lot of my family don't speak or properly speak. So it was like eyes in the back of my head. And I'm thinking, they might be thinking that I've done this completely not what he wanted. But he planned it. And it was said that he wanted. But now everything's done. We've obviously got more paperwork to do with his estate and stuff. But we got his gravestone that went up yesterday, so I went to see that. And but like everything's done now, and it's like quiet, and it's like, will I now be able to grieve for all of them now that it's gone quiet?
Yeah, I think probably that's the time, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I worry about, is my feelings towards that.
What, allowing yourself to grieve?
I think so, yeah. I think that's and I think you've got to allow yourself to grieve, but it's which way you go with the grieving. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
But I do think that it's my time to have my time to grieve for them. Now I've lost basically a whole family.
And you've done so much for them, and you should be so proud of everything you've done and everything you've achieved and how you've handled it. And, you know, I think you're well within your rights to have some time to try and process it all, because it's a lot to process, isn't it? How has everything that you've sort of been through, has it changed how you feel about life and death? You know, the experiences, has it changed how you approach things?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm a lot more calm. I'm a lot more easygoing with things, whereas I was a little bit uptight on certain issues. But death, I'm still scared of death.
I'm still scared of it.
I'm still like, I don't think I'm scared of death. I'm scared of not being here anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm scared. I've not gone, I am scared of how I'm going to die. Like because I had a conversation with my friend. I was like, if you could find out how you died, would you want to know?
And what did you say?
And sometimes I'm like, I said yes. But then if I said yes, and then I'd be like, okay, I can't go here now, or I can't do this, I can't do that. And you'd be scared. Doing aspects like, no, I wouldn't want to know. But in some ways, like, you always want to know, like your future a little bit of like, but actually probably ideally, no, I don't want to know, because it would stop me doing half the stuff that I probably do. But I've seen several people now and they've died like peacefully. They don't look in pain, but it's just the aspect of not being here. I think that's I don't think it's actually the death side of it. I think it's, well, I'm not going to be able to see this person. I'm not going to be able to do this person. I'll forever. And I think everybody wants to live forever, don't they? They all, they don't want to go, and they don't want to be in pain, or they don't want to do any of that. But
what do you think happens when we die? What's your thoughts on it?
So I would like to think that there is an afterlife. I would like to think that I could see everybody and know what they're doing and be around them and that they're up there and they're having fun and it's all this nice life and they're out of pain now. And I do think that, and I hope that that is the case. And I can tell you a quick story that I do believe in it in some ways. That when my dad passed away, I lived in like a terraced house at the time, and all the gardens like all next to each other. And my dad, years ago, when he was younger, used to race pigeons, and that was like his hobby. So there was one morning I'd gone outside with my husband, and on the floor there was a racing pigeon, and it was a few months after my dad had passed away. And this racing pigeon, I fed it and fed it and fed it to, basically I rang my mum up and I was like, what do I do, because of my dad and stuff like this. And this racing pigeon would go onto my daughter's window on the outside, and it stayed there for about 4 or 5 days. And once I'd fed it up, it flew away. And my dad always said, if I could come back as something to show you a sign, and he said this just like a brief conversation, then I would. With my uncle, I've not had anything. Not yet. I haven't felt anything yet. But when my dad passed away, when I'd go to bed, I did feel like a coldness on my hand and stuff like that. But with my uncle or my nan, I've not had any sign of anything yet. But that's the only sign that I've had. And my mum's had a sign of where, when she had to get all the photos out for his order of service, she really didn't want to go through the photos, and they were above her bed. She had a wardrobe over her bed, and there was a slight knocking on the door where the pictures were, and she was like, what is that noise, and until she opened the cupboard door, she realised the pictures were in there. And it was like my dad was saying, it's only a photo, why are you worried about looking at photos of me, what is the issue? And the knocking actually stopped when she got the photos out. So in aspects of that, I believe that, whereas that there are some people that say, don't believe in it, don't believe in signs, I don't believe a white feather come in and hitting you on the head, or it just happens, they don't believe in that. And my son, he doesn't believe that his way of thinking is strange. He believes that they all turn into animals or come as somebody else.
Reincarnation, yeah.
Yeah. And the evolution, and all of this. So, but I want to think that, and I'd hope that that is the case, that there is something out there, that there is another afterlife out there. Do you believe that?
I do believe that, and I think it does give us some comfort, doesn't it? And I definitely believe that there's so much going on in the world that there has to be something different. That there has to be something else. This can't just be it. It can't just be, this is the hell on earth and then you die and there's no heaven. Like, for me, that just doesn't seem right. So I totally agree. If you could give our listeners, anyone who's sort of going through anything similar to you, any advice, Jenna, what advice would you give them? If they were your age and they had a lot to navigate, like, what's the advice you'd give them?
Speak. Don't stay quiet. Speak. Even if you think that people aren't listening, if you want to speak about them, speak about them. Don't feel that you can't speak about them, because there'll be somebody that will listen. And if you need the help, get the help, because not always will the help come to you. And try and just take your time. Don't rush. Take your time with anything. If it's tasks of cleaning the house, or just do it when you're ready. It's still there. Like, it's not going to go anywhere. Take it. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done. I'll be like, no, I'm not going to clean the house today. No, I'm not going to do this today. I'm going to do something for me. And like, if they go somewhere, go for a walk, don't feel that you're on your own, because there is a massive group out of there, and there's a massive, any age that is going through. You're not the only one. And you might think at the time, I'm the only one that's going through this. I'm the only one that's got to navigate this. You're not. There is plenty of people. There's groups out there. Use them. Or if you don't want to use them, there are people out there.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a big community of people who sort of all feel the same way about things, and it's really nice to connect. And you obviously having listened to the podcast and then getting in touch with us, it just shows that someone else is feeling the same way as us, and you can sort of you can listen to some of the things we talk about and be like, yeah, I get that, that's how I'd feel.
But if you reach out to people, like, I never thought that you were going to reach back out to these girls. I thought, no, they'll probably have like loads of people, like, and my story's not, probably other people have gone through all of this. Because like I said to my husband yesterday, I was like, do you think anybody else has gone through what I've been through with like losing that many people that quickly? And like, is it me? Like, is it, am I bad luck? And is it, and you just think, there probably is. Like my husband was like, there probably is more than what you think.
Yeah, but I bet there is.
Yeah, but you just think you're on your own.
Absolutely, especially when you're in the thick of it. We think we're on our own. But thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you keep listening to the show, and maybe we'll get you back on like in a year or so and see how you're getting on.
That would be perfect.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to It's a Death Sentence. Please keep listening to our weekly episodes.
And if you like our show, please like, share and subscribe.
We are dying to talk to you.